I've managed to assemble all of the diaphragm okay. It attaches well to the air duct as well as this bottom panel there. The gaps are roughly the amount that I want. I'll wait until I've got the rest of it finished before I set them. What I'm now doing is setting the mud shield. Now the mud shield on this side is a little different. The shape of everything is different because of the shortened air tube. So I've tried to put it on and it's not quite right at this stage. Everything seems to be bent a little bit. The has a few brackets on this side. Now there's one, I've just got it sitting there at the moment, haven't welded it on yet. That's meant to weld onto the wing, and it sits on basically this side of the wing. And there's another bracket on the other side which is actually welded to the flange that's glued to the bonnet. Now I haven't changed that, but having a look at it, it's too thin, so I'm going to cut that off and replace it, and then I'll see how I'm going to fit this. I've still got another bracket, of course, to put up on the top there, which ties the whole piece together. Haven't done that yet. In fact, I haven't made it yet, so I need to make that. An initial look is that it's almost there, but like most things, almost is not quite enough to make it fit. So I'll have a few adjustments to make. But first of all, I'll make that new bracket. Make the new bracket there, and I'll make the blank for that one there, and then progress. I've spent a bit of time trying to get this rear mud shield in place. I've replaced the bracket on the inside of the wing there. That's the one that I said was a little bit thin, so I've replaced that. Got a good piece of steel in there. The bracket on the other side, I hadn't welded that in place, but it's now fitting correctly, so that's good, so that's not a problem. Everything seems correct, but where I'm having the difficulty is up on the top bracket. Now this is the bracket that actually holds the mud shield to the guard and provides strength, and it also, once it's bolted in place, sets the width of the wings at that point of the bonnet. Now where that becomes important is when the bonnet closes and it sits on the body where the outer sills protrude towards or into the engine bay. Now the body is basically pretty well fixed because everything's been welded up, so I need to ensure that when this bracket is welded in place, it gives me enough adjustment so I can set the width to fit the body. Now where I have the problem is that the bracket I've made for the top there is a heavier piece of steel. Now it's a bit over 1 millimetre, not too sure, 1.1 maybe. I don't think it's 1.2. And what I was doing was actually putting it up against the wing and welding it. So basically it's welded on the inside of the wing, but I just put it on top of the beading and tacked it in place. Now when I do that and I take a measurement across the bonnet at that point, it puts me very close to the actual width of the sills at the front of the vehicle. Now it gives me very little wiggle room, and now when I've looked at the piece I cut off the wing there, the metal bracket was more welded not on top of the bead but behind the bead. So what I've done, if I weld that to the top of the bead, is that I've actually minimised the amount of adjustment. So I've just cut it off. I'm going to reposition that and weld it basically flush with the wire beading, so it'll actually be sitting behind it, and then a good seam weld across the top. Of course I won't put the seam weld in place yet. I'll put a few tack welds until I've finalised the fitting of the bonnet, but it'll actually be in a better position, which will give me more adjustment. Well, that's the theory anyway. So anyway, I've had to remove the bracket, cut the welds. Well, admittedly I only had it tacked in, and now I've actually got to reshape it and re-weld it. Now I'll also do the other side, because I've done the same thing on the other side. I've just welded it to the inside of the bead. As I say, thicker bracket, less adjustment. So anyway, it's better to do this now than when I've got it trying to fit on the vehicle itself. I've repositioned the brackets on there, tacked them in place. That seems to work much better. It's brought the wing in a little bit, which is good, which makes it easy to achieve that width I was after on the sills. So that's good. I've been playing with the bracket on this side of the wing here. This is the one I made out of heavier steel. Because I've been changing things up here and making a different shape to the piece that goes around the wing flanges on the bottom there. That's a piece I actually had to weld in anyway, a new piece, so I've had to modify that, which every time I modify that and reposition that, it changes the holes in the bracket I made. So it ends up that I've elongated the holes significantly in the bracket now to get the right position. So what I'm going to do is to actually remake the bracket and re-drill the holes, so make it a lot neater instead of just leaving it elongated. So I've got to do that. The flange that goes in behind that, this is the one that's glued to the wing. I've got to make some changes to that as well. Now that's one I repaired as part of the rust removal process. I cut off both ends of those and welded new ends on. And seeing I've been playing with the position of this, it's now changed the location that I drilled for the hole in the end of the little flange. So once again, I've now probably do better just to cut that off and weld a new piece and re-drill it, rather than just to keep on elongating the hole. So I've got to do that. As soon as I've done that and then reset the flange to the shape of the wing, I should have actually achieved the fitting on this side. But I'll just make those additional brackets and so on, change the end of the flange, position it, and then hopefully everything will be correct. all of the pieces now fit together. Everything can bolt in. The gaps on the flanges, the glued flanges, are approximately correct. I'm not worried about that at this stage, but they appear to have sufficient gaps. So I finished this mud shield on this side. After making the new brackets, I then had to do a little bit of shaping on the flange itself. Now that fits, everything bolts up correctly. So what I now need to do is the one piece that I actually haven't resolved is this piece here, which bottom scoop, I'm not sure what it's called. It bolts to these pieces here. Basically it fits up in there. Not a case of making a duplicate of that, because the dimensions of the section here was different. I did mention that when I was fitting this. This sits further forward, which means that original panel is too short. So I now have to make a new one of those. This one needed repairing anyway. It was rusted on the edges, but I now need to make a new one of those and fit that. So hopefully that won't give me too much problem, but that's the final piece. Now this is the last panel for the bonnet. The original is here with its rust and so on. The new one, slightly larger to account for the new bottom section there. It's all been fitted, drilled all the holes for the screws to go in there. I've also drilled them on the back, on the, just turn them around that way. Also drilled them along the back there with the screw plates welded in place. It fits, so I've checked that, so that's okay. Now what I have to do is to actually start pulling the bonnet apart again, and what I'm doing this time is actually finishing off the air ducts. Now when I repaired the inner valances and the air ducts, I only tech screwed those in place until I got to the stage of fitting everything together, which I've now completed. It all fits. So now what I have to do is go back and weld these air ducts into position. So it means pulling everything apart and doing that. So that would be good to get that done. What I'll also do as part of the welding is that I'll paint inside the air ducts, because it's it's impossible to get spray paint completely inside the duct. You can get it at the ends, but I'll actually paint all inside before I weld, so I've got to do that as well. So that's the next major job. Once I've welded them in place, I'll do a final check to make sure I haven't altered any dimensions with the welding, and just put it back together and make sure it fits still. And then it's a case of seeing whether this completed bonnet fits the body of the vehicle. So I'm a little way off that yet, but certainly getting a lot closer. As part of the metal finishing process, I'm going to address this little gap here. Now where the rule is there, that's where the bottom of the scoop goes in, the new panel I made, and it goes under the mouth, as does this area here of the trumpet. But when it's together there's a visible gap. Now I've looked at different pictures of different vehicles and most of them do have a gap, perhaps not as wide as this is up here, but there is at least on the best fitting cars a very small gap between the panel here and the edge there. So what I'm going to do is to close this up. So I'll be adding metal to the trumpet and filling that gap up. It's only a minor point, but once again I can see it. Whether anyone else can get down on their hands and knees and look into the mouth of an E Type remains to be seen, but I am going to see if I can address that and close this gap right up. There may still be a small gap, but I'm trying to get it to, well, if I can, less than 1/8 of an inch gap just visible along this bottom edge. So anyway, I'll work on that now and see if I can get that resolved. I've spent some time getting these panels into shape, particularly the valance. I've gone along that with a dolly and slapper just to take any imperfections out of the panel. There's still a few left, but not many. I've put all of the captive screw plates on, so they're now all in place, and I've put a coating of enamel on the inside of the air duct. Now this is where I can't actually sort of coat it with a final colour coat because it's inside the duct, can't get the spray gun in there. I will be putting the spray gun in the areas that I can reach, but certainly they won't go the full depth of the panel, so I've put that in there to preserve the steel. So it's now ready to put the panel together and weld it. You can see all the holes along the flange there. They've all got to be plug welded. So that's the next job. Once that's done, I'll just clean up those plug welds, and then that panel is basically finished. So anyway, still a fair bit of work to do. Takes a while to weld all of those plugs in, but be good to get that done. So that's another panel that's actually complete. This valance is now all finished, all the welding's done, so it's now one assembly. I think there are about 75 welds. It's a lot of plug welds to actually make and clean up. Certainly a lot of time was spent on that. The end result I'm quite happy with. This area down in there, I've added metal to the trumpet, and it's closed the gap up, so I'm pleased with that as well. So that's about what the gap between the two panels that I've seen on other vehicles. So that worked out fine. So now just repeat the process, but a lot more welding on the left hand side. I've just finished reassembling this unit. This is the left hand side. It's all now welded on. As I've said before, this is a much longer piece. Lots and lots and lots of welds to do. Be easier with a spot welder, but when you're plug welding all of this, you've really got to spend an awful amount of time to avoid overheating the panel, and then you've got to clean up all the welds after that on top of it. So anyway, that's done. The valance was finished off in terms of its metal finish. I've added a little piece of metal on the trumpet here. This is to close up that gap between the lower panel and the trumpet there. So that's done. So what I'm about to do is just to quickly reassemble, just to make sure I haven't changed anything when I've welded things together. So far so good, everything's fitting together nicely. The bolts are going in easy, screws are going in easy as well. I've just put the lower, I think they call it the lower air duct panel in, just to make sure everything is in the right position. So that's fitting nicely. I've got a Cleco in the left hand trumpet, this one here, that's holding that in position. I don't have one in there yet. What I'll do is I'll put the lower panel on and make sure everything slides in properly, then I'll put one in there as well. So that'll fix the position when I do the final assembly prior to putting the adhesive on the bonnet flanges. So far so good. It's looking nice. Everything is assembled okay. It all fits. All screws and bolts go into place. The shape is right. The panels are fitting neatly now since everything's been repaired. All the ducts have been welded in position. Everything fits. All the lines. The gaps on the flanges under the bonnet are close. I'm not worried about that yet. I'll do that as a final adjustment when I'm about to glue those flanges. So what is next is to put this bonnet assembly onto the vehicle and see how it aligns with the actual body and sills. So that is going to take quite a deal of effort, and the reason for that is that in this side of the garage I actually don't have a lot of room to manoeuvre, so I'm actually going to have to completely rearrange the workshop. So it means that all of this has to be moved and put over into the bay where I'm restoring the 1949 Daimler, and vice versa, the Daimler has to come over into here. So it's going to take a lot to move it all. Certainly the components here are movable. I'll probably disassemble the bonnet, and it's easier to move that in pieces than trying to manoeuvre the whole body assembly, which is sitting here. It's on its own turntable, of course. I won't be taking that off. I want to move that in one piece, but I need room in the garage to move things around, so the bonnet will have to be disassembled, and it'll make it a bit easier. Not that it's going to be easy anyway. So this will be the last update, I'd say, for at least 2 months before I get it all reassembled. The workshop reassembled. As I say, it's a lot of work I've got to do. All of these shelving here, this was put in just so I could have the tools handy to work on the body on this side of the workshop. So all of that's got to be pulled down, all of the tools put back where they belong, which is really on the other side of the workshop, not this one. So I'm getting closer to actually putting the body back together so it actually resembles a car. So that'll be something to look forward to. All the rust repairs are done. Might be a couple of minor things to do in terms of rust, but they're only very small pieces actually on the body itself, around the rear window hatch area. So I've got to do that, but that's only minor compared to the amount of work that's already been done. The reason I'm putting all of this together is to, as I say, see how it fits, see how the bonnet fits to the body, and also once I've actually got that right, then I'll finish off the metal on the bonnet. So there's a bit of lead work to do on the bonnet, but I've been waiting until I actually put all the pieces back together. So anyway, this will be it for a couple of months. Then I'll resume, and the next video will be starting, hopefully, with everything in its right place in the workshop, and I'll start trying to assemble the bonnet onto the vehicle.